friends, if you don't want to get cancer, then you really need to know how to fight with melatonin. And it's not really the ones in the bottle. It's the ones your own body makes. The right amount of melatonin at the right time has powers beyond helping you sleep. Did you know that blind women have a 50% lower risk of developing breast cancer? Blind people have higher melatonin levels compared to those who are sighted. Did you know that different light bulbs can actually increase your risk of cancer? What kind of light bulbs do you have? So I have here an LED light bulb, the one that saves energy. So if you're using an LED light bulb, it emits wavelength primarily in the visible light, 400 to 700 nanometers. It also has some blue light, which is 450 to 495 nanometers. LEDs may produce a small amount of UV radiation. It's really minimal to none. Although certain LEDs, like black lights or medical grade LEDs, they actually can emit more UVA radiation. And UVA rays can increase your risk of skin cancer. Although it's generally low, but prolonged light exposure may contribute to oxidative stress and skin cells. Your blue light also affects your sleep and melatonin. So the blue light from the LED actually can suppress your melatonin level. This can lead to disrupted sleep if you use this at night. And when you have disrupted sleep from blue light, you can actually weaken your immune system by reducing the body's ability to repair and regulate inflammation. So we use fluorescent light bulbs. It emits in the visible light spectrum 400 to 700 nanometers with some UV radiation, 100 to 400 nanometers. Now it can emit both UVA and UVB rays. High exposure or prolonged close range, less than 2 feet, could contribute to skin damage. So this increases your risk of skin cancer if you're too close. And some studies have suggested that chronic exposure from the UV radiation from fluorescent lights could potentially increase your skin cancer risk, especially in those who have UV sensitive skin. So when you sleep, this can also disrupt melatonin because of the blue light components, 450 to 495 nanometers. This suppresses melatonin. This disrupts sleep. And I mentioned if you disrupt sleep, you suppress your melatonin, you weaken your immune function since melatonin plays a role in modulating your immune response. And I have an old incandescent light bulb with a little filament inside that emits infrared light. Do you remember that for a long time, these were the only light bulbs we can buy, these infrared light bulbs. And whenever you change your light bulb, it was so hot, right? You had to wait for it to cool down in order to change it. You can pretty much touch an LED light bulb, even though it's been on for a while, because it doesn't have that heat. Well, incandescent light bulb primarily gives you heat. It's over 700 nanometers in wavelength. So this was a inefficient light emitter so that when we turned it on, we still couldn't see the room very well. And I remember reading by these infrared lights. They were just not as bright. So I would always want to change my light bulb to something a higher watt, 100 watt or 120 watt. Do you guys remember that? Well, this actually is the least disruptive for your sleep because it emits infrared light. Infrared light appears to be the most beneficial to your immune system out of all these different light bulbs. So in our quest to save energy, we have really been changing to less healthy light bulbs. This one, I can't believe, emits UV radiation. So I spent a long time studying, and I would have a desk lamp shining on my books and papers so I can read. And so for a long time, this was less than 2 feet away from my face because I'm trying to study and I need bright light to see. Nobody told me that I should get an extra coating and keep this light bulb over 2 feet away from my skin. And now we have LED light bulbs that are really good emitters of visible light. If you're lighting this up at night, it potentially can disrupt your circadian rhythm to disrupt your melatonin levels. And so that's why now I have a red light bulb. And the reason why I have a red light bulb is because I don't want the full spectrum of the visible light at night. I want to tell my body that it's time to go to bed. So I will turn on this red light bulb probably like 3 hours before it's bedtime so that my body gets used to the dark and starts to wind down. Do you know what this is? This is a bag of pistachio nuts. Let me show you. Oh, by the way, someone said that these are scissors. These are not scissors. These are forceps or basically clamps. See, it clamps down, so it locks in. It just allows me to hold things a little bit better. It has teeth. Can you see that? It has little teeth to grip. See how easy it is for me to pick this up? This is a pistachio nut. You know why I'm showing this to you? It's because this has the highest amount of melatonin out of all the different nuts you can find on the supermarket. So melatonin is a hormone in which we can eat. Eating pistachio nuts actually lowers your risk of colon cancer. You may ask, why not just take a melatonin supplement? Well, melatonin at the wrong time can elevate blood sugar levels, causing more inflammation that can ultimately increase your risk of cancer. Melatonin can also lower your testosterone and estrogen levels. So when you take exogenous melatonin, like a melatonin supplement, you bypass your body's natural regulation of melatonin. Hence, it's important to understand how to naturally optimize your melatonin through your lifestyle to reduce your risk of many cancers. And unfortunately, as we age, we simply make less melatonin. But there are plenty of foods like pistachio nuts that have melatonin that can help us out. So before we dive into the top 10 things to do and eat, let's all be on the same page on the basics of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone your brain makes. Believe it or not, a tiny little place as small as a grain of rice inside your brain is responsible for all the melatonin your body makes. This is how small a grain of rice is. You see that? This is the size of a pineal gland. There are receptors in the back of your eye that talk to the pineal gland. So when your eyes see light, the pineal gland stops releasing melatonin. But in the dark, the pineal gland releases melatonin. So sleeping with your lights on reduces melatonin production because light can penetrate through your eyelids. But if you never open your window shades or go into sunlight in the morning, your body will continue to release melatonin. Both states disrupt your circadian rhythm. And so that's why, number one, you got to get good, deep, dark sleep. Now, if you want a night light, for safety reasons, make sure it's dimmed and it doesn't directly send light to your face. Light will turn off melatonin production, especially blue light. And deep, uninterrupted sleep helps regulate melatonin levels, ensuring proper secretion through the night. So a well-regulated circadian rhythm ensures peak melatonin production at night and suppression during the day. We need to have both. Consistent sleep schedules help maintain melatonin's natural cycle to prevent sleep disturbances. Now, the pineal gland synthesizes melatonin from serotonin, a neurotransmitter that depends on good quality sleep. And as you can imagine, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, can alter the body's regulation of melatonin and thus contribute to sleep disturbances. But don't stop your SSRIs if someone has prescribed that to you. You have to speak to your medical provider to titrate that off if you want to stop. Now, poor sleep reduces serotonin ability, leading to a lower melatonin production the following night. And good sleep reduces cortisol, which suppresses melatonin release. Chronic stress and sleep deprivation, they lead to high nighttime cortisol, the stress hormone, which interferes with melatonin synthesis. So your brain follows a 90-minute sleep cycle, moving through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Now, deep stages, there's actually two, stage 3 and stage 4. They help to restore melatonin sensitivity, which allows the body to regulate the next night's melatonin release properly. REM sleep, or dreaming stage, enhances serotonin production, which is essential for melatonin synthesis. Hence, it's important to sleep enough to dream and to sleep in incomplete darkness to maximize melatonin production. It then can enhance sleep depth and duration. And at night, avoid your phone, your computer, your screens that emit blue light, which can suppress melatonin, leading to shallower sleep cycles.
Hi, friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
And did you know that melatonin is an immune modulator, meaning it enhances immune function? So it does this by stimulating the production of T cells, essential for adaptive immunity, increasing the activity of natural killer cells that target cancer cells. It modulates cytokine productions. It helps to balance inflammation and to prevent that excessive immune response while maintaining effective immune surveillance against cancer cells. Melatonin enhances the efficacy of the macrophages, which are in charge of engulfing and destroying abnormal cells like cancer cells. So having a strong immune system leads to not only lower infection rates, but lower cancer rates. Studies have shown that people who don't sleep well meaning less than 7 hours of sleep or interrupted sleep, well, their immune system does not respond properly to stimulus. So when your melatonin drops, your immune system becomes less effective. And this can then lead to a decreased natural killer cell activity, allowing cancer cells to escape immune detection, increases chronic inflammation, which can all promote cancer development. And obviously, this is a higher oxidative stress level, which then leads to more DNA mutations and weakens response to infections and scavengers of cancer cell, which all reduces your overall immune resilience. So hence, it's important to sleep well. Now, my son, for the longest time, he thought his roommate was keeping the lights on so that the light would then go out one window and reflect on the concrete into his window. Well, it turned out that it was the street lights as well as the roommate's lights that was keeping him up all night. And so I kept encouraging him to buy better window treatments. But in the end, he settled for some eye covers. Your circadian rhythm is super important. And so that's why number 2, you got to get into a good routine to have an optimal circadian clock. Now, every day, it is a must-do to expose yourself to bright light in the morning. This resets your circadian clock, it boosts your daytime alert list, and ensures proper melatonin release at night. So poor sleep, irregular schedules, or light exposure at night all can disrupt your melatonin rhythms, leading to insomnia and circadian rhythm misalignment, which means poor metabolism. So normally when the sun goes up, your metabolism and immunity increases as your melatonin decreases. And when the sun goes down, your body prepares to rest. Your body likes routine, and it likes to prepare in advance for whatever stress is coming your way. Just moving is stressful because the wrong movement can cause injury. You don't even have to lift any weights. A couple of years ago, my pastor, he went and played pickleball and he tore his gastrocnemius barely playing. That is his muscle in his tibia, in his lower leg. So then he couldn't walk for several weeks and he couldn't understand why he got injured so easily when he used to play tennis in high school. I reminded him that high school was several decades ago. And if you don't do anything in between high school and now, well, your body is just not prepared for those stressors. So you can't just get up and do abrupt twists and turns without preparing your body for that kind of stress. And metabolically, your body works the same way. In order to release the right digestive enzymes and the right hormones, to prepare your metabolism in the right way and your immunity the right way, you have to get it into a rhythm. So hence, a routine is very important when it comes to eating, working, exercising, and resting. So that means you really need to wake up the same time every day. And in the beginning, you may need an alarm clock. So do you go to sleep at the same time every day as well? Because it's hard to wake up if you don't sleep at the same time. And if you do, then you probably have a good circadian rhythm. And your body has a built-in physiological habit, which then can further spend its energy to optimize your metabolism, your immunity, and your sleep. So disruption on any one or all of these increases your risk of cancer. Can you think of a group of people who have messed up circadian rhythms? Teenagers. They pretty much sleep like in weed odd hours and wake up way past morning time. What about night shift workers? So who do you think are at higher risk of getting cancer between a teenager and a night shift worker? Of course, it's a night shift worker because teenagers usually are younger, they have better mitochondria, they're healthier, they have just better metabolism and immunity. But night shift workers who've gone through a lot of trauma in their lives, whether that's through the foods they eat or the pollution they breathe or the stressors, the mental stressors that they go through, well, they usually have metabolic problems, they have reduced immune function, and on top of that, they have messed up sleep cycles. That is a perfect storm to increase your risk of cancer. So number 3, avoid staying up late at night or to minimize that. And if you can't, avoid night shift work if possible. Now I know very well it's not always possible. I struggle with the same problems. And many nights I've stayed awake to address patient care issues. Many healthcare workers, we sacrifice our sleep, our circadian rhythm, and our health to do our jobs. I've done that for over 2 decades. I was talking to one of my good friends from college just the other day, and she's in the utility business. And she also has to do night shift work, and she loved working at night. She did it for several years, and every time she worked, she would get off at 6 o'clock, go home, prepare breakfast for her husband, and then hit the sack by 7. And for a long time, she could sleep 6 or 7 hours during the day, and then she would get up, eat dinner, make dinner for her husband, and then go straight to work by 6 p.m. After a few years of this, one day her body couldn't sleep more than 4 hours. hours. So she went to work feeling horrible, brain fog, tired, and she assumed it was just one off day. But then the next day, she couldn't sleep more than 4 hours again. And this continued every day for several weeks. So she was working on pretty much half empty or less than half empty. Then on her days off, she couldn't actually sleep at night either. So she realized her body could no longer tolerate night shift work. And luckily for her, she was able to find a position during the day. Working night shifts are brutal. My longest shift was 36 hours straight. And I had to take care of patients during all that time. I was a zombie. And by the time I got home, all I wanted to do was hit the sack. Obviously, that kind of work is unhealthy and unsafe. And did you know that working night shifts increases your risk of car accidents and increases your risk of diabetes? Your circadian rhythm regulates your insulin production and glucose metabolism throughout the body. That's your body's internal metabolic clock. So when you work night, it misaligns your body's natural timing, leading to impaired insulin function and increased blood sugar levels. Your pancreatic beta cells, which actually produce insulin, function best when in sync with the circadian rhythm. And when you disrupt this, your insulin secretion is less efficient, leading to insulin resistance. And on top of that, many night shift workers, they eat late at night. The body is simply less insulin sensitive at night, leading to higher blood sugar levels. Sleep loss further reduces insulin efficiency and increases hunger hormones. Artificial light exposure at night also suppresses melatonin, interfering with glucose metabolism. Hence, I use a red light bulb when I work at night. I also try not to eat much after dark, especially before bedtime. However, I know this can be challenging, as that's the only meal that I get to sit together with my family. So I keep my last meal the lightest. So at night, when the sun goes down, melatonin goes up, it reduces insulin secretion, and this is protective because it prevents you from going too low, hypoglycemia. You don't want to have low blood sugars during nighttime when you're not eating, or you may not wake up. So when night shift workers eat at night, melatonin is still higher than daytime, but their insulin production is suppressed, leading to poor glucose control. And chronically high levels of melatonin at the wrong time, right? Due to night shifts, it increases insulin resistance than during the day, make it harder for cells to absorb glucose. And when you have low daytime melatonin due to light exposure at night, this also disrupts your mitochondrial function, reducing your body's ability to regulate energy properly. Circadian misalignment disrupts mitochondrial efficiency, leading to decreased glucose uptake by the mitochondria. Now, I don't want to give people the wrong impression that these changes are permanent, because they're not permanent. When you change your lifestyle, you change your eating habits, you change your environment and your light bulb, then you can change your metabolism. In fact, your metabolism will improve and your sleep will improve. However, there is a point of no return. If you've damaged too many mitochondria or you've suppressed it, this will reduce your ATP production, forcing cells to rely on other energy sources, which leads to fat accumulation and insulin resistance. So night shift workers experience higher oxidative stress, which damages your mitochondria, further worsening glucose metabolism. Hence, if you are a night shift worker, it's important to fill your meals up with antioxidants. Then I'm sure you've experienced that brain fog that comes with sleep deprivation. I'm sure we all have. We've all been teenagers. Sleep deprivation is now known to reduce brain function, cognition, and mental health. And these disruptions affect your melatonin levels, neurotransmitters, and your brain structure, contributing to both short and long-term consequences. Hence, number 4, it's important to get bright light first thing in the morning after you wake up. Looking outdoors, standing on your porch, opening your windows, and allowing that sunlight to stop melatonin production is helpful. You don't want to look directly at the sun though. So this is why timing is really important. And I try to make it a point to get up and go outside to hit sunlight. And I usually do this before 10 a.m. because that's when the damaging UV ray starts going up. And your eyes, they have cells called the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which contain melanopsin, a light-sensitive pigment that detects blue light in the visible light spectrum. And these cells, they send signal to your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's in the hypothalamus, which is body's master circadian clock. The suprachiasmatic nucleus processes light information and suppresses melatonin production instantaneously in the pineal gland, when the light is present. So when it gets dark, your eye cells, it stops sending those strong signals to your suprachiasmatic nucleus. Therefore, it stimulates melatonin release to promote tiredness and sleepiness. And so the blue light on your computer screen at night can affect your sleep, right? These artificial night lights, whether it's blue lights or your LED lights, they're partially responsible for our lower melatonin levels. So chronic circadian disruption, it all increases and builds up potentially beta amyloid plaques, the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Sleep disturbances also contribute to dopamine depletion, a factor in neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's. But if you have to be up at night, avoid bright light and especially blue light. White light has blue light. So if you don't want to shut down your melatonin, then you want to remove the white light. So when I work in a dark room, I feel really sleepy, even if it's not nighttime. And that's why I turn the lights on to perk up, right? So at nighttime, I have my red light bulb to prepare me for sleep. And individuals exposed to artificial lights at night, especially white light, like Nightshift Workers, they have been found to have significantly lower levels of melatonin. And they also have an increased risk of breast and colorectal cancer. Hence, it's even more important and even better if you don't get sleep deprived or have poor sleep. And that's where we need to fill our diets up with melatonin-rich foods, the highest being in the nut family. So I mentioned pistachios, but you can also eat walnuts and almonds. Of course, you can't eat a bunch of it, right? Otherwise, you'll gain a bunch of weight. But when you eat these nuts, don't forget to eat the skin. The melatonin is found in both the skin as well as the inside of the nut, but the highest concentration is usually in the skin, especially in nuts like pistachios and walnuts. So eating nuts regularly have been linked to reduce risk of several cancers due to the powerful combination of antioxidants, healthy fats, fiber, and bioactive compounds. So if you have a choice between eating blanched almond flours and regular almond meal, go for the almond meal. If you have a choice between eating those peanuts with no shell versus a shell peanut, go for the shell peanuts because it still has a skin. So number 5 are oats. Have you heard that oats are good for you? Well, it is true, not just because they are high in soluble fiber, but oats are also high in melatonin, the highest amongst grains. Oats can help supply tryptophan to your brain, boosting melatonin and serotonin. Now, I had mentioned in another video that your gut microbiome can make serotonin, but your gut microbiome also has species such as Clostridium perfringens, which produces toxins, particularly alpha toxin, that can be leaked to certain forms of colorectal cancer. However, in your gut, there are trillions of different species, all competing for space, including Clostridium species that don't produce toxins and aren't associated with a higher risk of cancer. Now, the gut microbiome is an ecosystem competing for resources. So species go and seek to nature when they can't find food. And your microbes don't eat unless you eat. So if you're going to eat more meat and eggs, just know that you're promoting the growth of cancer-causing species of Clostridium, like Clostridium perfringens and Clostridium bifurmitans, both known to love fermenting protein. Now, the problem with excess protein is that then you have an excess production of amine compounds like putrescine and cadaverdine, sulfites, and other metabolites. These compounds are toxic and may promote cancer by damaging intestinal cells. So excess amino acid consumption can be fermented to produce amines like putrescine, which is associated with DNA damage and tumor growth. Hence, eating whole oats, not refined oat flour, it has the fiber your gut microbes can ferment, which increases your gut transient time and also feeds the good gut microbes to reduce that inflammation from the meat to protect your cells. So this means number 6, eat less meat. And there's no way around this, folks. Plants not only have 1,000 times more melatonin than meats, but there are also many things about animal meat, especially red meat, that promotes cancer to grow through multiple mechanisms. So if you're worried about GMO plants, then you should really know about N5GC. N-glycolyl-neuraminic acid, which is a sialic acid sugar molecule found in most mammalian tissue but not in yours. They're not in humans. It is abundant in red meat, especially beef, lamb, and pork, and in some dairy products. So when you eat red meat, new 5-GC from that red meat gets absorbed into your cells and is mistakenly incorporated into your cell membranes, especially in tissue with rapid turnover like your gut lining, blood vessels, and immune cells, as well as tumors. Now, the immune system detects new 5-GC as foreign and produces antibodies against new 5-GC, leading to chronic low-grade inflammation even though you stop eating that meat. Now, this chronic immune response has been linked to conditions such as atherosclerosis, cancer, especially colon cancer, and autoimmune diseases. Now, theoretically, new 5-GC can persist in human tissue for several weeks to months, depending on the cell type. So red blood cells, that's how we measure hemoglobin A1C. It lives about 120 days. Well, new 5-GC can remain as long as a cell is alive. Your gut lining and immune cells, that has a shorter lifespan, 3 to 5 days. So new 5-GC clears more quickly there. But if you eat it over and over, you keep getting exposed to it, and you're allowing your body and your cells to incorporate it. Muscle and connective tissue, well, that has a slower turnover, weeks to months. So new 5-GC can accumulate over time in these tissues. And cancer cells, especially new 5-GC-enriched tumors, well, some suggest that new 5-GC preferentially integrates into cancer cells, potentially promoting cancer cell progression. Number 7 is a tart cherry. Tart cherries, especially Montemosseri cherries, are one of the richest natural sources of melatonin. The melatonin content varies depending on the variety, processing method, and growing conditions, but typically levels are higher in drier tart cherries because they remove the water. Believe it or not, tart cherry juice has 10 times more melatonin than fresh cherries. And if you get cherry powder, that is more variable. And the human body typically produces 10 to 80 picograms per milliliters of melatonin in the blood. So consuming tart cherries can provide a pretty meaningful boost. And unlike most foods, tart cherries contain bioavailable melatonin. Cherries also contain tryptophan, an amino acid that helps produce serotonin, which in turn gets converted to melatonin. But in addition, tart cherries, they have anthocyanins and polyphenols, which reduce oxidative stress and support sleep quality. So another fruit, kiwis. Now, do you prefer the green or the golden kiwi? I personally like the golden kiwi, which has actually higher melatonin than the green. Kiwi contains serotonin, a neurotransmitter that converts into melatonin and promotes relaxation. Kiwis are also known to reduce oxidative stress, which can help improve sleep efficacy and help regulate the body's melatonin cycle. And kiwis are also rich in fiber and prebiotics, which is a great constipation reliever. So number 8 are lentils, which are actually not a direct source of melatonin, but they play an important role in supporting the body's natural melatonin production. And this is because of their amino acid composition. They are an excellent source of tryptophan, an essential amino acid that serves to produce serotonin, which then gets converted into melatonin. 100 grams of cooked lentils is 200 milligrams of tryptophan. Now, as a bonus, you also get magnesium, which are critical to help activate melatonin receptors, promoting relaxation and sleep. Lentils are also a rich source of folate, vitamin B9, which affects neurotransmitter function, including serotonin production. And you get another bonus. Lentil prevents blood sugar spikes and crashes, which can both disrupt sleep cycles. Now, number 9 are chickpeas. Now, chickpeas don't actually contain melatonin, but they are one of the best plant-based sources of tryptophan, which helps the body produce serotonin, which then gets converted to melatonin. So 100 milligrams of cooked chickpeas has 200 milligrams of tryptophan. In addition, it has vitamin B6, which helps convert tryptophan into serotonin and then melatonin. It also has magnesium and fiber, again to support your nervous system and melatonin regulation. Number 10 are grapes, which actually contain melatonin, but the amount varies depending on the variety and growing conditions. Now, I only eat red and black grapes, and it turns out they have more melatonin than green grapes. And unlike most foods, grapes provide bioavailable melatonin that can be absorbed and used by the body. Now, grapes are also rich in antioxidants like resveratrol and other polyphenols to help reduce oxidative stress and to improve memory. Now, did you know that melatonin actually can enhance your immunity partially through increasing natural killer cells, both their number and function directly by producing special proteins that can destroy cells like perforins and ganzymes? Melatonin is also an immune modulator to prevent the overactivity or underactivity that leads to either autoimmunity or immune suppression. And your natural killer cells also follow your circadian rhythm, peaking at night with melatonin to ensure that during your sleep, your body is still undergoing repair and regeneration. And in fact, melatonin is being studied for its ability to increase natural killer cell tumor destruction, so that melatonin may one day be an adjunct for cancer chemotherapy. So natural killer cells, they make proteins called perforins and ganzymes that actually destroy foreign invaders or cancer cells or a germ. And melatonin can directly increase your natural killer cells' ability to increase these destructive protein to protect your body. Now, there are so many foods that can improve your natural killer activity. So if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.